Andry Vildak and welcome back to another episode of the show. We're shooting this in my new studio, which I built in my living room, and we have a special guest over. She's a good friend of mine.
Hello.
Jacqueline Moré, everybody. How you doing?
I'm good.
So before we dive in, I want to know how comfortable those chairs actually are.
They're pretty comfortable.
Right? Those are new ones.
Yeah, I know. I sat on them yesterday.
But yeah, I met you in drama school, and
Yes.
what I remember is that at first nobody knew where you're from because apparently you're from everywhere. Tell the listener where you're from and who you are.
It's funny because like when I get asked this question, I'm usually like, oh my god, I have to like explain. Because obviously like you hear it once, but I've been explaining it my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's like funny because like, for example, when I'm with my boyfriend, because he's like 100% Portuguese, he's like, oh, I want to explain, because he doesn't get to have that like story. He's just like, I'm
Yeah.
Portuguese and that's it. And so he's like, I'll explain it for you. No, but like actually when it comes to the industry, I kind of like that people don't know where I'm from, because, you know, I feel like as soon as you say like I'm Portuguese or I'm Estonian or whatever, people are just gonna put you in a box.
That's true.
Whereas like, you know, if I'm like ethnically ambiguous, then like, you know, they can make it their own mind up of like where I'm from.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
that can like help their like casting imagination in a way, you know, of like, oh, to me she looks American, I could totally cast her as like an American, or oh, to me she looks French or whatever. And because I speak those languages, then it's like, well, yeah, I can just be whatever you want. So I tend to like not necessarily want them to know or like, you know, where I'm from.
Yeah, actually.
Because this way they can like not put me in a box. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, I can relate to that because, you know, they're saying, you know, yeah, you should kind of keep it a secret. The same thing with your age. So
Yeah.
that's why at first I didn't say anywhere that I'm from Estonia,
Yeah.
because I kind of wanted to be able to play other types of roles as well. But actually recently I've just started showing that side of me as well. For example, now in emails I say that I'm from Estonia. There's so many British people here. So, you know, if I go against 1,000 other people who speak RP perfectly, you know, they have much of a better chance to get
Yeah.
the role. Whereas like if I'm one Estonian and there's maybe like 5 more, then I have much higher chances of booking the role.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know. But so where have you lived if you don't want to disclose where you're from?
I'm from the Czech Republic. I was born and raised there. So my passport is Czech.
Okay, so that's where you spent most of your life.
Yeah, and then I moved from there when I was like 14, 15, something like that. And I moved to Rome, and I lived there for like 2-3 years. And then I moved to Sitges, to Barcelona, where we met.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been living there for like 6 years. And then when I was like really young, I like lived in Paris for like a year or something.
Yeah, because you speak so many languages, right?
Yeah, so like it's funny because so my native language is actually French, because I grew up going to a French school. And actually when I was a kid, it's funny because I used to have a French accent when I spoke English.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a
really
one.
like, yeah. And it's funny because I didn't realize I had an accent, because obviously like I was a kid, and also like I speak English with my dad, and I remember he used to tease me like, yeah, I have a kid with a French accent. I was like, what is that? And I was like, haha, you know, like I thought he was just teasing me. I didn't realize it was actually true.
Wow.
And then one day, you know how like I don't know if it's a thing anymore, but like, you know, like the old like big like Macs, they used to have like that like photo booth.
Yeah,
Is that
okay.
still a thing?
I'm not
And
sure.
then you would have like all these effects that you can do.
Yeah.
And so like I used to hang out with like whatever, a friend of mine, when I was like, I was like 11 or something. And I would go to her house and her mom would have that like big MacBook. And so we used to like do these videos with like these effects and like stuff like that. And then so we're like doing this video, and then my dad calls me, and so I pick up the phone in English, because my friend, obviously like my friend, we were speaking French or whatever. And so I pick up the phone in English and I speak to my dad and whatever. And then later on we rewatch the video and I'm like, what? Like I have a French accent. Like, what is this? I didn't know. I had no idea. Because also like, you know, when you're a kid, like when do you ever hear your own voice?
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Yeah, when do you ever hear your own voice?
And like,
yeah.
why would you like be aware of like accents and like be aware of your.
Did you get self-conscious?
Oh yeah, I was like, because that's the thing. Like also, it's also that idea of like, oh, if I have an accent in the language, it means I'm not fluent. But you can easily, you know, be fluent and like.
Oh
have
yeah.
an accent.
But okay, let's dive into your life as an actor now. But to fully grasp the story, we need to take you back to the very beginning. So can you take us back to your childhood or whenever your passion towards acting started?
It's very weird, but it's kind of a thing that I'm like since I'm a kid, I've been saying like, I want to be a dancer, I want to be an actress, I want to be, like I knew I was like, I'm an artist, like,
Yeah.
you know?
No 9 to 5 for me.
No, but
Yeah.
well, I also like, you know, when you're, I don't know, 4 years old, you don't necessarily know all your options and you don't necessarily know like what it means as well.
Yeah, true. So you just base it on what you like at that moment.
Yeah, but it's also like I played the piano when I was a kid and I like, you know, took dance classes and like I kind of had that like artistic environment, let's say.
Yeah.
But I feel like the one thing, and this is really funny, or like to me, or for people that know this, but basically when I was a kid and I was like 4 years old, I think, I started watching this series, Spanish series actually, but because it was like on French TV, so I would watch it in French. Because at the time I didn't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Which is funny because now I live in Spain and I speak Spanish. But I grew up with like this Spanish series in French. And so the name of it in Spanish is Un Paso Adelante. So basically it's like this series about this performing arts school where they teach like dance, singing, music, acting, and all of that. And it's basically like, it's like 7 or 8 seasons of like, you know, what happens with the students and the teachers and like, you know, like the life of that school. And so I used to like be obsessed with this series as a kid, and I was like 4 years old. And whenever they would have like dance classes, you would actually see like the whole like choreography that they do and everything, like with the whole song. And I would like stand in front of my TV and like dance around and like try to imitate what they're doing and like think that I was so good at it, even though like they were like professional dancers and I was like this 4-year-old that can barely lift her leg. You know,
were
like,
the girl who didn't know she had a French accent.
Exactly. But yeah, so I kind of think it came from there. Like, you know, like the original spark is like, I want to be like these guys, you know, kind of thing.
Okay, so that was how your passion started. But what was the first step you took to kind of make it a reality?
My mom's Russian. Like I kind of had that like Russian education where like I had to go to ballet classes.
You had
as
to study
a kid.
Stanislavski.
I had to but I had to like go to ballet classes and I had to like learn piano or like have an instrument. I actually started with violin when I was 3. Yeah, like even like flamenco classes or like whatever. And I was like a little kid, you know, I barely have any memory of this, but I have photos. So, yeah. And then I did the typical like school theater thing, but like, you know, the kind of like after school activities, but I was still there like, I'm the best in my class. Because I would get like the main roles and I'd be like, I can act. I sound so annoying as a kid, like the girl with a French accent that thinks she's better than everyone
just
else.
so delusional, like just doesn't understand
like,
the world.
I totally lived in my own world. Oh my God. Sorry. Yeah, and then like when I graduated, I went to Sitges.
Was that always?
Oh wait, no, I'm like forgetting a big part of like.
Oh shit!
So I actually lived in the UK for a year.
What?
I just like forgot a big part of my life.
Just another place you lived.
Just another place I lived.
So at what point did you live in the UK?
I think I was taking these dance classes or something. And my teacher had like showed me this school in the UK. And I was like, Mom and Dad, please, like I want to go. My dad was like, okay, go.
So you moved here solo?
My mom like came with me. And so like I came here with my mom. I lived in this like little town called Tring. I took like a musical theater course.
Okay.
Because that's the thing, like when I was young, I like loved dancing and acting. but I wasn't really interested in singing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like I can't sing, so at least I was aware of that.
But still, fuck it, musical theater.
Musical theater, because it's the only thing that like teaches, you know, both. Like, because otherwise you would have like just dance or just acting,
Mm-hmm.
but you wouldn't have anything with like both, you know.
Yeah.
But if it's both, then it's singing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like a horrible time in singing classes, but the rest was really fun. And so it was the type of school that, like, because I was 13, it's like in the mornings we would do everything that's like dance, acting, whatever. And then in the afternoons we would have like academics, so like maths, English. And so, okay, this is also a big part of my life because, as you know, like I've been in a French school my whole life.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm like in this English school with my French accent.
So that's how you got the British accent.
And that's how I got the British accent.
No way.
Yeah. And so like it was so awkward because like in like English class, which for me, you know, in a French school, it's French class. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Because
when you study like literature, like, you know. And
yeah,
so
because apparently, important point, just when Jackie came to drama school in Spain, she had a British accent.
yeah. So he met me with a British accent, but he was not aware. And then everyone would like tell him like, yeah, she has a British accent.
But I was so unaware of accents. I
So-
was like, accents? What accents?
What is that?
Estonian, and
Can
that's
you
it.
eat it?
Maybe a bit of Russian. Is there any more accents?
But yeah, and like I remember like being so like scared to like, because you know how in English class like you would read a book, for example, and then the whole class would read it, so like, you know, one by one. And so I would be so scared because I'd be like, it's so embarrassing, like because I never had like any classes. Like I learned English speaking with my parents,
Yeah.
but I had never like had any English classes, you know. And because like in the French school, when you're younger, like they don't like right away like put you like 5 languages to learn on top of French, you know. It's like
Yeah.
first you choose between German and English, and because you know the level that they were teaching English I already knew, because it was like, you know, the basics, and I already knew that amount, so I chose German, which I don't speak, by the way. Like I took like, I don't know, 2 years when I was like 8, which means nothing.
I took like Russian as well for like 6 years. Don't know anything.
Exactly. So yeah, and so then I went back to Prague. I don't know, I felt a bit like an outsider because I was the only one that was not from the UK. So then I didn't do anything, like nothing to do with acting. Like I didn't do anything at all until I graduated high school. And yeah, and then I went to the drama school in Sitges.
Was that always planned that you're gonna go to drama school, or was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in my head.
Yeah.
Like
So how many did you apply to?
just that one.
Oh, just that one.
Yeah. I feel like after that like UK experience, I was like, I don't want to live there.
Yeah.
You know? And also like when I lived in the UK, so there's this event that's called Move It. So I had
Yeah.
gone to that. And that's where I learned about the IAB. And so I think when I was like 16 or something, I did a summer course in the IAB.
Oh yeah, true.
And then I was like, yeah, I could probably go there. I really wanted like, you know, a British program because, you know, that's what I had a taste of, let's say,
Yeah.
when I was 13, and I really liked that. And I also think, almost like my personal opinion, don't kill me, but like most of the amazing actors like for me come from the UK.
No,
you know,
yeah,
it's kind of like
it's kind of, yeah.
the center of like theater and like, you know. And so I really wanted like a British like program, let's say, but I didn't want to go to the UK. So I was like, ugh, what am I supposed to do? And then I found this school and I was like, that's literally what I'm describing. You know,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, it's like a drama school, but by the beach in Barcelona.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you don't have to ask me twice.
Yeah, that's how I found the IAB as well. I graduated high school and then I was like, okay, I want to go to a drama school which it teaches in English, but I kind of wasn't aware of the landscape really. And then I just Googled, okay, English-speaking drama schools in Europe, and I found that was kind of almost the first thing I found. And I was like, that's perfect. I need to get in there. So I stopped looking for anything else. Plus, it was also kind of last minute. It was like August when I was applying.
Oh, wow.
Because I was about to take a gap year, actually. Yeah, I was thinking of going to Australia and work a bit. I don't know, but then I thought that okay, if I go to Australia, maybe I don't have that kind of momentum to get back into studying.
Gap years are dangerous.
Yeah, when we graduated, it was the COVID time.
Yeah.
So how did you decide that you're gonna stay in Barcelona? Because you speak so many
I
languages.
couldn't leave because of COVID.
Well, so you just stayed there because you couldn't leave, and then you were like, okay, I'm gonna live there. I'm gonna continue living here.
Basically.
Okay.
Because
Because you speak so many languages.
Yeah.
You could go to France, to
I was
the UK.
So I was considering going to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Roa and I were both considering going to Paris. Roa, a friend of ours. But because of COVID, like that just didn't happen. But yeah.
But when did you make the choice that okay, I'll just give it a try in Barcelona? Because you could have left after the COVID, right?
Like it wasn't more of like, oh, I'm gonna try Barcelona. It's more like, well, I'm not gonna go anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Makes
and
sense.
then once like I kind of accepted the thing of like, well, I'm not going anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like got into it and like really because that's the thing. Like I always thought like, yeah, career wise, like I should go somewhere, you know, like Barcelona doesn't necessarily make sense like for me personally.
Because you don't have the Spanish accent.
Well, yeah, because I don't have like a native accent and like, you know, Spanish is what like my third language. Like it doesn't make sense to start my career in a language I'm not necessarily like 100% comfortable in, you know?
Yeah.
But when it comes to my life, it's like living there, I really enjoy.
So what was your first project after graduating and once you got into it?
So my first project after graduating, I mean, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I did like a few student short films.
How did you apply for them?
I think it was like through this web page on Instagram. Wow, I'm such a boomer. Through this Instagram profile. Like if, I don't know, students were looking for someone, or even like if there weren't students, but I don't know, independent productions or something, they could contact the page and they would post castings on their story.
Okay, so in Spain you have that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, there's like this one person that decided to do that, which is a really good idea.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, and it was like for free, I think now.
So it's kind of like a Facebook group, but on Instagram. Kind of.
Yeah, kind of thing, I guess. Because like people, like they repost like castings and then all the followers are like actors, I guess.
Yeah.
So they can just reply and then, you know, contact the director, whoever's doing the casting.
So how did you get your first agent?
So my first agent was actually just a commercial agency.
And your first theatrical agent?
I had an agent in the UK for a little while. This actor that lives in Barcelona, he was looking for a native English speaking actress to do a scene with, like for a showreel or something. And so I contacted him. We met up, and in the end, like I was a bit too young to do the scene. But he was like, you know, like you're really cool and like your showreel's like really great, whatever. Like I'm gonna send your profile to my agent. And that was really cool. And like since then, like we became friends. Like we're friends now. I wasn't like this creepy guy that was
yeah, the casting couch.
But yeah, and so he like sent my material to her and she was like super interested, and then I had like the Zoom meeting with her and like from then on like we got along super well, and it was like we worked together for like a year or something.
One of the advantages of having lived in different places in the world is that you can reside in those different places for shooting purposes. And that was one of the reasons you booked your first role in a big studio project, The Wheel of Time.
Yeah, actually, that was like my first like real job as an actress, let's say.
So can you tell us how was the process of getting called to an audition up until shooting the film? Series.
So basically, Nancy Bishop was the casting director on that project, or one of them at least, for the locals in Prague, because some of it, or a big part, was shot in Prague. So basically this kind of like goes back to like a year before I got the part. I was aware that Nancy was based both in London and Prague, and I was like, I need to contact her.
Yeah. And
actually Lucy Lennox, she was like, yeah, right now her and I were doing like this monologue competition online or on Instagram,
Okay.
So yes, so they did this like monologue competition, and I was like, okay, I'll apply so that she like sees my face, so that she knows who I am. And then I was like, hopefully Lucy will tell her I'm based in Prague or something. And then actually turns out I was like one of the winners.
Mm-hmm.
So Nancy had to contact me to be able to like, tell me I'm the winner and like send me her book and all of that. So since then, like, I told her like, yeah, I'm based in Prague. And she was like, yeah, I'll put you in our database and all of that. Yeah, so I was in direct contact with her, and here and there she would send me some castings. And then about like a few months or almost a year later, she sent me that casting for the Wheel of Time, and I got it. Mm-hmm. And then, but that's the thing, because she like hired me as a local, so obviously like I paid for my own flight tickets and stuff. Mm-hmm. But like my family lives there, so I was just like, well, I'll just go home for a bit, because I didn't just go for the shooting. I just like, I stayed for like 10 days or something. I was like, I might as well like go and see my family for a bit.
So what was your reaction when you got the call or email that you booked it?
I was like so excited, because that's the thing, like at the time the first season was not even released yet.
Okay, so you hadn't seen
anything. This was already for the second season.
Okay.
And the first season wasn't even out, and I was like, whoa, it must be a big production if they're, renewed for a second season without the first one being out.
That's
like
true.
It has to be a big production for that to happen, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, that's crazy. And you see like Amazon Prime, you're like, oh my God, like, and it's like your first ever paid job as an actor and whatever. So obviously I remember like waking up and like my boyfriend was sleeping next to me, and I was like, wake up, look at this email that I just received.
So how long was the period from booking the part until being on set and shooting?
A month, I think.
And how was the experience on set?
I felt so fancy, because that's the thing, like, because it's a big production, even if you're a tiny role, you're going to get your own trailer. They're going to pick you up from everywhere, Actually, fun fact, I met Natasha O'Keeffe.
Oh, really?
But it was so funny because I knew who Natasha O'Keeffe was.
Yeah.
But when I saw her, I didn't know that was her. I think this was for the fitting. And so I get picked up, in this like big black van in front of my house. And
Mercedes vans pulling up.
Yeah. The driver is like, yeah, we just have to pick up another actor before going. And so we go and we like stay there for a little bit, and we're like waiting. And I'm like, who is this? Because he was like, yeah, we just need to wait for Natasha. And I was like, who's this Natasha? Like,
yeah.
Okay. And then she comes down, and she's like the sweetest. She's like, with all her bags. And obviously at the time we were wearing masks. Mm-hmm. And so we were with the masks like in the van, like sitting next to each other. And she was like a bit rushed, like with all her bags, because she was going, I think, for like horse riding lessons or something.
Okay.
And she sat there, and we just started chatting, like talking about our lives. And, she was talking about her kids and like her husband and how long she's going to be staying in Prague. And like, I don't know, we were just like talking about our lives. And then 2 days later, the night before the shoot, because that's, when you get your call sheet.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's my first part in a big production. So I'm like
Googling all the names.
Exactly.
That's what I do.
So I started Googling like all the like names on the call sheet. And then I'm like, Natasha, that's the girl like from the van. Yeah. And I Google her, and I see Peaky Blinders, and I'm like, that's her. Because I had seen like all the series and everything.
Yeah. You played a burnt lady, right?
Burnt woman.
You played a burnt woman.
That's my official credit.
So you had a lot of makeup.
Yeah, I had like effects makeup.
So how long did it take to apply that?
Like an hour and a half.
And you have the photo on your Instagram, so if any of the listeners want to check it out, they can just pull up your Instagram.
See my burnt face.
Yeah. So not too long after, you got an audition for a lead part in a new feature film called Wake Up, which is made by very well-known directors, at least within the horror film industry. So can you tell us a bit about the project?
The directors, there are 3 of them. They form a group that's called RKSS. Okay. And so they're from Montreal. I don't know if you know Summer of '84 or Turbo Kid.
I know Turbo Kid.
They've done like some good movies.
Mm-hmm. So how was the audition process for that one?
At the time, I was also self-represented. I would receive some castings directly from Lucy Lennox as well. And so this was one of those. I got that audition like a year ago. But, it was kind of like those castings that you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to get this. And yeah, so I did that. And then like, I kind of forgot about it. And then I'm like in Portugal on a road trip, like in the middle of nowhere. And I get an email being like, yeah, so you're being optioned for this role, and we might have a call back in person this Friday. And I think it was like a Tuesday or something.
Oh, wow.
But I wasn't sure.
Okay.
So it wasn't even sure if the callback was going to happen. And I think they sent an email like 2 days before the callback.
Oh, wow.
And they sent the full script. And they were like, yeah, here's the full script, and we'll be doing the same scenes that you did in the self-tape during the callback. And yeah, it's like the next day we like drive back to Porto because like all my stuff was in Porto.
Yeah.
And
you had to catch the
that was
flight,
kind of like the nearest airport that we had and whatever. So like we drive back, I pack, and we go to the airport right away.
So was that the final audition?
Yeah, so there were just two. Like there was a self-tape and then there was that one.
And how many people were called back?
I think we were 3. And it's funny because like my best friend was also there. Me and my best friend, we kind of like got called back for the same role.
Yeah, Claudia.
Oh yeah, Claudia's on this as well. And so it was kind of like, well, if it's not going to be me, obviously I want it to be you.
So if it's not going to be me, there's still 50% chance that I'm going to be happy.
Exactly. So that's the thing. It was kind of like 2 out of 3, it's good news.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it is very rare in the industry to get a lead part in a high profile feature film like you did. So can you tell us how was that? What was your reaction when you got the call that you're going to...
I cried.
Really?
I have the video. Actually, I was with Claudia and Roa.
Okay.
We were in Morocco, actually. And that's the thing. Like, we hadn't heard anything back for, like, 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
Like, since the callback, it had been, like, a while. And also, like, 2 weeks. Like, it seems like a month in that situation. You know what I mean?
Seems like
and the
years.
worst parts are weekends because you're not going to get any news on the weekend.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, can it like not be the weekend already? You know? And we both had like our phones like there, just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
And then I think I got an email kind of saying, I think we might be considering you for the role or something like that. But it was a lot of like might and maybe and it's not 100% and da, da, da. And I was like, what? Just like tell me, because it was like I had that thing of like, oh my God. And then I was like, no, but wait, like I can't be happy about this yet because it might not be true. I
feel like in the acting world, nothing is certain until you sign the contract.
No, until you see the movie and you make sure you're not cut out of it.
Yeah.
So I got that. And then I think 1 or 2 days later, I got the call from Lucy. Lucy called me directly and she told me. And then, so I have a video because Claudia recorded.
Okay.
So I have a video of me kind of like after the call, like hanging up and like in tears, like in my pajamas, like in tears, like I got it and whatever.
Wow. That's such a great moment.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a great moment, but at the same time, it's a huge responsibility because now that's your time to kind of prove yourself and show everybody what kind of an actor you are. So once you had booked it and you had kind of celebrated, what happened after? Did you start preparing for the role? How intensively? What was going on?
I think I had to travel like 2 weeks later. So the first week or 2 were like fittings and, some stunt rehearsals and table reads and just meeting the other actors and everything. And then we went on to a 5-week shoot. I feel like my hardest scene was my first day.
Okay.
So I think I like got thrown like right into it, like because also for my first feature film ever, and first day of shoot, everything, and I have like this crazy scene. So I feel like it kind of like threw me into it. Also, most of the actors and characters are like around the same age. We were all kind of like on the same boat, and it wasn't like there was this one super famous actor that was like a diva or these really snobby directors, or it was like everyone was kind of genuinely working together. And actually like, well, that was my first feature, so I am obviously not like super experienced and like, oh, I know how things usually go on set. But what they had told me, for example, especially the crew members, they were like, yeah, like the actors usually like they rarely mix with us and things like that. And I was what? Like, because we were like all the time like hanging out, all together and things like that. But at first I remember like them not really coming and talking to us, and at first I was like, oh, they don't want to be friends, like the fucking newbie, like. And then I like talked to them and I was like, yeah, and they were like, yeah, because like usually we only kind of make the step if like the actors come towards us.
Yeah.
But they were like, it's not just because of what we're used to, it's also like we're not allowed.
Yeah.
Like they're
exactly.
not allowed to like go, you know, and make friends with actors. Only if the actors go towards them.
Yeah.
Then like that's what they told me, and I was like, what?
You know, as actors, I feel like every project is beautiful in a sense that, you know, you're all actors are put together and you have this fantastic time for 5 weeks. But then once you wrap, it's kind of like post-travel blues. It all feels like a dream. So how did you feel like having that crazy period of 5 weeks of shooting and then ending up in your apartment in Barcelona looking for another audition?
It was like a huge hangover. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like an emotional hangover kind of thing. You know, it was very weird. It was also like Christmas time because we shot like in November, and so I got home and it was like December and stuff, and you know it was cold, and also, you know, in December everyone goes for Christmas. And
So was it like a needed break?
well, I remember like I got home and I just like slept for like 48 hours. Like I didn't leave my house in like 2 days.
Yeah.
Because I just needed to sleep. We were, you know, shooting every day for like 14 hours and then, you know, waking up the next day early morning. And it was the kind of movie as well that like we had 2 cameras. And I remember them saying like, yeah, technically we would need like 31 days to shoot it, but we will do it in 25. We're like, okay. So, you know, it was like really like we had long days. And
yeah. But how was it from an actor's perspective to go from like working on your, let's say, dream project to not having anything in the calendar?
Well, obviously that's hard, but I don't know. I just kind of like, for me, it was like, well, that still happened. I just kind of like reminded myself of like, yeah, you graduated and, you know, weren't really working for 2 years, but then you still got that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, be patient. Like things will come to you. And
yeah.
And also thanks to that, shooting that movie, I got to sign with an agent in Spain.
Okay.
So I felt like I could kind of like breathe for a little.
Did they contact you or?
I emailed. I kind of like urgently needed an agent because I had a project and I had no one to like represent me on it, and like no one to help me with the contract and like all that stuff, you know? So I just like emailed like a bunch of agents, but that's the thing, like you don't know where that email ends up. Each, you know, agency has their different methods when it comes to like new representation. The one I'm in, apparently like from their, you know, representation folder, they like look at it
like once a year.
Once a year.
So how was it that you got the email read sooner?
Obviously, I emailed like a bunch of agents, and then after a week, I was like, shit, I still don't have anyone. And so I asked Claudia, I was like, hey, can you just ask Ruth to read the email? And obviously, like, Claudia is my friend. She's gonna do more than that, you know? And so she was like, yeah, like, and that's the thing, because she got the call back for the project. So they already knew about the project and about the role and you know, so they already knew about it. And honestly, like within the time that I asked Claudia, I think like within 3 hours I was with them.
Wow.
She sent her my number, and then the agent called me, and then I explained the situation, and she was like, well, yeah, that's all great and whatever, but like I don't know you, so like send me your material and stuff. And I was like, I did like a week ago. And she was like, oh, I don't read those emails. And then fair enough, she was like, yeah, I have so many actors, like I already have so much to worry about for my actors. It wouldn't be fair to them if I start like looking at other actors, you know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I thought about recently. If one agent, let's say, has 80 actors to represent, and the week has 40 working hours, you can only give each actor 30 minutes. 30 minutes in a week.
Oh.
So Wake Up premiered at the Sitges Film Festival, which is, you know, one of the world famous horror/fantasy film festivals.
Yeah.
How was the red carpet?
So actually, like the world premiere was in Texas.
Okay.
At the Fantastic Fest, but only the directors were invited to that one. And yeah, and then like we were invited to the European premiere because also like all the actors live in Europe. And yeah, first red carpet. I was very nervous like before doing the red carpet because, you know, it's that thing of like, oh, I have to pose and I have to and I'm like, and I'm not that kind of person, you know, I'm not the natural model, you know. So I was like so nervous, but then it went fine. And that's the thing, it's not like I went there alone, you know, like all the actors were there and the directors were there as well, and it was just fun, you know, to be all together because we hadn't seen each other since, you know,
it was a good reunion.
Exactly. So it was also fun to like, you know, spend the festival together and like, you know, do those things together.
So you've attended film festivals before, but that was the first time when you had your own film showing at that festival. So how was the experience different?
Oh yeah, so different, especially because it was the Sitges Film Festival, so it's like where we lived for like 3 years.
Yeah.
So obviously in a way, it was even more exciting for me that it happened there, because it was like, well, I lived here for 3 years of my life, and it was like very special. And I've been to those cinemas, and and also like one of the auditoriums is 1,400 seats. Like that's insane.
Oh, okay.
Like that's where we did the premiere, and I was like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I signed my first autographs. I like took pictures with like, fans of the film and fans of the directors, because they're quite big in Sitges. Like they really have their audience. They arrived and like they spent a whole day like taking pictures and like signing autographs. Like they really have their fans there.
Was your signature different this time as it would be on like a document, for example?
So like obviously I signed my first autograph. My reflex is like I do my signature, right?
Yeah.
And actually I was like, wait, am I supposed to write something? Am I supposed to say like
love ya.
Am I supposed? No, but yeah, like I don't know what's an autograph. Like I've never even asked anyone for an autograph.
I guess because nowadays, autographs are selfies,
Oh, that's so sad. But that's the thing, like I don't know what an autograph looks like. So I just like, what's your name? And she gave me her name. And I just said like for blah blah blah, and then I signed.
Okay.
But obviously I just like signed, and then like I spoke with a friend, and he was like, wait, did you sign with like your actual signature? And I was like, well, like yeah. And he was like, you should make one up, because they can use it. They can like forge it.
They're gonna buy a house and buy a car and
yeah, because I have so much money. I mean, obviously, like I'm nobody, so like they're not gonna do that with me. But I was like, good point. I might do that in the future.
So because of that project, not only did you get an agent in Spain, but you're also trying to find one in the UK, and that's why you're here in London today and those days. Why do you think you would like to have representation here as well?
Starting my career in my third language isn't necessarily like the best idea in the world. Yeah, I have the stuff in Spain and all of that, and that's really good, but I think that obviously my strong point is English and French if possible as well. So I'm like hopefully maybe aiming to go into the French industry and like find an agent in France if possible and stuff. But because also like I've trained in English, and until now I've only worked in English, so UK is my first aim, and yeah, I think it just like makes sense for me.
Have you noticed any differences in the agencies in the UK and Spain? What do you think the main differences are?
From what I've like heard, for example, like in the UK you'll have like your top agents, like you'll have your Curtis Brown, you'll have your independent, you'll have like these guys. Casting directors, for example, like if they're casting a lead role or like a bigger part, they tend to go to these guys. When they're casting like smaller roles, then they have like the other agents that they go to. I'm just saying this because like this is what a casting director told me. I feel like maybe it depends on the casting director. Another casting director, for example, told me that like he doesn't care.
So how's it in Spain then?
I mean, in Spain, I feel like everything is kind of like mixed. The top agencies there would kind of have like people that nobody's heard of.
Okay.
And like, so for example, like in my agency, there's like really big people, and then there's like me. They could get contacted for like all types of roles. But for example, I doubt that, for example, Curtis Brown would get contacted for like, I don't know, one-liners.
We've been in this industry for a little over 3 years now. Is there anything you wish you had known?
3 years?
Yeah, time goes fast. But, the COVID year as well, so,
COVID years don't count.
Yeah. But if there's a young actor out there who's kind of like just getting out of drama school or just kind of starting that journey, is there any advice for them, like how to approach life or life of an actor?
If you're not represented yet, for example, don't be like, I'm not doing castings or working because I don't have an agent. If you do have an agent, don't just sit around and wait for your agent to do the work. You know what I mean? I feel like now you can get stuff done for yourself and do whatever you can do.
Yeah, I guess you're the living proof because both of those projects you got unrepresented.
That's true, yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming on the show, Jacqueline. We had a lot of fun hanging out with you today. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot to the listener. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.